The situation with Daystar and the allegations that have been surrounding multiple leaders at Daystar for over a year took a pretty big turn this week, as the Roy's report has released some police interviews with members of the Lamb family and executives at Daystar. I think there's a lot that we can learn from this, but guys, this is so much bigger than Daystar. This is so much bigger than the allegations of SA against Baby Lamb, and that is massively important. It should never be overlooked because the safety of children is one of the number one things that has always got to be in front of us. But this is big for the church because I think some of the things we're going to see, some of the things we're going to hear in these police interviews is I think you're going to see two people in J.W. Weiss and Rebecca Lamb Weiss. I think you're going to see two people who are wrestling with and struggling with this tension. We want the truth to come out. We want justice. We want, if these allegations are true, we want this child protected. If they're not true, we want this person exonerated. We want justice. We want truth. And I think you're going to see the tension of there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, I don't know what to believe. And maybe I don't know what to share. And I think as we look at this together, we're going to see why it is so difficult for many Christians in the church to share concerns they have about not just potentially illegal activity, but to share concerns about more immoral activity, sin concerns, and everything else. Because when you're a part of a big church or a large organization or an organization just running certain systems, even if they're not that big, it can feel like you're putting yourself in danger. It can feel very uncomfortable to share those things. And for the people like this detective who were trying to get at the truth, it can actually put up a lot of barriers to them finding the truth. Now, we've already talked about questions this detective had about NDAs that executives sign at Daystar. Okay, we've already talked about that in a previous video. We talked about that in the last segment on this live stream, so you can go check that out. We're not going to talk about that today. We're just going to listen to the rest of these police interviews in general, but just like that NDA floating around was a potential hurdle from someone like this detective trying to pursue justice, I think you're going to see a lot more hurdles. So there's hurdles on both sides. There's hurdles from me pursuing the truth and justice as an individual, from doing what I feel like is the right thing and following my convictions as an individual, but there's also hurdles that get placed in the way of people like detectives, people like denominational leaders, people like independent investigators trying to find the truth as well. So let's go ahead, let's listen into this together, and let's see what we can learn from these police interviews. I think for the most part, JW and Rebecca, I want to give them props on some things. I think they were trying to be as honest as they could in most places. I genuinely felt like they wanted the truth to come out, like they care about the protection of baby lamb. I think they were being very shrewd to multiple times say, we got trust issues on both sides. And it looked like as they came back in for the second interview, you see their clothes change and everything else. The second interview, it looked like they wanted to share a lot more. And it looked like they were making their attorney at times uncomfortable with how much they were sharing. You're going to hear him say, ask the question, I thought we were keeping this low profile. And you're going to hear J.W. Weiss say, well, yeah, we're going to keep it as low profile as we can while pursuing the truth. So I appreciate them so much. Also, with this stuff coming out, I think it's important for us to talk about it. But this is going to probably cause a lot of fear, a lot of discomfort, and potentially some retaliation against JW and Rebecca. They already, as you kind of will hear in some of the interviews, feel like odd people out in the family. But one of the things, there's been a lot of fear from people in the family to people around the family to people around Daystar. There seems to have been a lot of fear throughout this entire investigation of people sharing things that Joni would not want them to share. So Joni Lamb is not just the leader of Daystar, she's the matriarch of this family. So pray for JW and Rebecca because they were doing a lot to try to help with this investigation. The investigation is essentially stalled because there's not enough information to make an arrest. There's also not enough evidence to clear the person who's involved. So I would encourage you not just to get this information, but as you're praying, would you include JW and Rebecca in your prayers, because my fear is there's going to be a lot of discomfort at best, but at worst, some retaliation coming their way from just what we've seen out of Joni Lamb and other leaders there and their behavior in the past, especially because as executives, if I'm understanding correctly, JW and Rebecca signed the same NDA with the same concerns from Daystar. So there's a lot of different actions that can be taken. I would encourage you to pray for them if you can. But let's go ahead and let's look at a couple of things together.
We never said anything because there's nothing to.
Before we look at these clips,
the only reason.
And give me just a second there. Before we look at these clips, I want to give you a little bit of information here. My screen share has already went away, so I'll come back to it here in just a second. But if you go to the Roy's Report, you are going to find a couple of different articles you can look up, one from this week, one in the archives. One of the articles is, it's got the title, Daystar couple tell police their suspicions of brother-in-law abusing baby lamb, Pete's identity revealed. We're going to talk about a lot of the things that are in that article today. We're going to listen to them in this. But another article, if you look it up, you'll find one from May 16th of 2025, where it says no charges filed as police close Daystar abuse allegation investigation. Now, if you read that article, one of the things you're going to find is, again, this wasn't closed because Pete, who we're going to reveal here in just a second, was exonerated. It wasn't closed because he was found not guilty. It was closed because there's not enough evidence either way. There's not enough evidence to charge. There's not enough evidence to say he's not guilty. So it was closed, and the Colleyville Police Department have said it was closed temporarily because without that evidence, what they need is an outcry from baby lamb. For those that don't know, an outcry is essentially where an SA victim or a trauma victim says, this is what happened to me. And in a lot of cases, especially with kids and SA of kids, there's what's called delayed disclosure. It is very normal for it to take 10, 15, 20, 25 years for a person who was SA'd as a child to disclose what happened to them because of the trauma there. And for the protection and health of baby lamb, nobody's trying to force that out of her. But the Colleyville Police Department has said there's no statute of limitations here. This is closed for right now. It will be reopened if there is an outcry. And they specifically said the reason why it's been closed is because there hasn't been an outcry. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and listen to these interviews.
We never said anything because there was nothing incriminating that we could report that we knew of. And we're not going to go online and play, slander with a bunch of online people. We've always submitted everything to leadership, not only the family, but organizationally, and that's all you can really do.
All right. So a couple of important things there that I believe that we need to talk about. One, he says, hey, the reason why we haven't talked about this before, we haven't talked about it because we didn't have any hard evidence. We didn't have any, stuff that we could definitely say was criminal. But this investigator, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for, yes, if you know that, share it. But I'm also looking for character information. I'm looking for background information. I'm looking for other pieces of the puzzle. And he's going to tell them throughout these interviews, hey, there's a lot of things you're sharing that you didn't think were important that essentially are very relevant to this case. But there's a couple of other things that I think we need to hone in on here that he said. He said, one, we didn't want to just go public and slander people online. When you look at most of what I have seen in public, most of what I've seen, especially from Jonathan and Susie Lamb, it didn't qualify as slander. And if it did, then Daystar could have a defamation case and get it stopped. They could get an injunction from the court that would actually stop this, okay? But I haven't seen things that qualify as slander and defamation. So it makes me wonder, does JW know what slander actually means? Or has he just been told this? Because this is kind of in the line from Joni and other people around her. Oh, this is just gossip. This is just slander. People are just trying to hurt us. When the reality is, the reason why, from everything that I can see, the reason why Jonathan and Susie went public about this a year ago is because they had exhausted all other efforts they could see. And over the course of years, they felt like they were lied to over things. Where at one point, Joni and I believe Marcus, before he passed away, had told them that Pete, who, by the way, Pete is Josh Brown. This is Rachel Lamb Brown. All right, another one of Joni's daughters. It is her husband who has been identified as Pete. Again, we're not saying he is guilty. We're not saying he's not guilty. We can't say anything about that. But because he's in so many of these videos where they said his name, because so many other people have said his name online, they finally disclosed that. So we don't have to call him Pete anymore. We can just call him Josh, right? But as they're talking about this, they're talking about we didn't want to slander, we didn't want to do all this. But he also said, we've always submitted to leadership, both in the family and kind of corporate and in ministry. But in this situation, they're the same. They're the same. Joni is their leadership in both places. And Joni was the one that told Jonathan and Susie, from everything that I understand, that, hey, there was a forensic investigator that cleared Josh of this. And because they thought he had been cleared, they dropped a lot of these things for a good long time. And you're going to hear, if you listen to the full interviews, I think there's pieces of it in this, but in the full interviews, you hear multiple times JW and Rebecca are saying, why did Jonathan and Susie wait so long? Why didn't they push this earlier? Why did they have to go public? Well, when you go back and you realize that they were allegedly told by their mother and other people that they trusted, that Josh had been cleared by a forensic investigator, it makes more sense. And then later, they found out he wasn't cleared at all. They've been told about this polygraph. There's this polygraph that Josh took that cleared him. You're going to hear that come up in these interviews. The detective, one, says that's not admissible in court, although helpful, but you're also going to hear JW and Rebecca literally say and ask the detective, have you seen this polygraph? Because we've heard about a polygraph. Everybody tells us about a polygraph, but we've never seen a polygraph. Okay, so you pair that together with JW's Christian idea. So many people misunderstand submission, and it's, well, we've always submitted to leadership. So we're submitting to leadership now. We didn't want to slander online. And it sounds like the same narrative that we've heard from Joni Lamb. So if you're in a ministry and you're constantly hearing these narratives, if you say something publicly, then you're causing disunity. If you say something publicly because you don't know, it's slander. And that isn't the definition of slander. And if you do that, you're just hurting people and you're not submitting to leadership. If those are the things you were hearing from spiritual leaders, especially spiritual leaders you trust, your own mom, your own mother-in-law, that can lead people to not sharing the truth. And this is something that we've seen in a lot of spiritual abuse situations. Not saying this is spiritual abuse, although we've seen some definite spiritual abuse evidence and elements in some of the recordings that we've heard over the course of this investigation. But in a lot of these spiritual abuse situations, what you find is there's so much almost spiritual gaslighting. You got to submit to leaders. You got to protect the unity of the church. You got to make sure you're not slandering anybody. There's so much spiritual gaslighting that people think they're letting God down if they're pursuing justice and they're pursuing the truth. Yet again, if we go back to Micah 6:8, it shows us such an important part of God's character. These are the things that God wants from you. He expects from you to do mercy, love justice, to act humbly. Justice is a part of what God wants. So let's go ahead and jump back into this.
A lot of the common recurring things we mentioned, you guys on the reports and stuff and the blogs and whatever, was that you guys had wrote a letter or email talking about concerns for Josh or something.
Yeah, I wrote.
All right, so before we get into the letter, this is important as well. There's going to be some back and forth between the detective, who I feel like was just trying to build rapport with JW and Rebecca. JW and Rebecca are going to ask multiple times, why did Jonathan and Susie go so public? We wish they hadn't went so public. Why did they have to do that? But the reality is, from the very beginning of this interview, the detective is saying, hey, one of the things we found from the blogs and the YouTube videos, oh, hey, here's another element. I wanted to ask you a question about it. It's been in a lot of blogs, been in a lot of YouTube videos, podcasts. If Jonathan and Susie hadn't have went public, there's a lot of information that the detectives would not even have right now, because so many people have been working together on this, right? So a lot of churches and ministries, when spiritual abuse is involved, or when people go public just about their concerns, even if it's not spiritual abuse, it's just immorality or potential criminal or sin or anything like that. A lot of times what they'll say is, hey, why did you go public? You're just hurting the unity of the church. When the reality is, when we go public and get other people involved, that isn't our first go-to, but a lot of times is what you have to do. And so again, it's really easy to villainize people who go public. Yet in many of these situations, justice only comes when the public gets involved. So is everything that everybody's done as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, as a blogger, has it all been helpful? No. But I actually think without podcasters, without YouTubers, without bloggers, in situations not only like this, but situations like what happened with Dr. Michael Brown, with Mike Bickle, with so many others, if we don't have public pressure on these things, the truth doesn't always come out, and as much of the truth doesn't always come out. This is why the press is important. This is why we have freedom of press protected in our Constitution, because you need the press reporting on things to actually get accountability in a lot of these situations.
Like
Not really.
not really, like, more like a brainstorm of like what I've witnessed, like my concerns, and just what I found was alarming.
What kind of stuff was alarming?
All right, so they're talking about a letter that JW wrote. This is what the detective is saying. Hey, I heard from these blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts about this letter. What is it? And JW and Rebecca are going to continually frame this as this is just JW getting his thoughts out. It's concerns he had, things he thought was alarming, and now he's going to tell us a little bit more about those. And there are some, I think, very concerning, very alarming things. This is going to make the Thanksgiving dinner table very uncomfortable, though, because this coming out is helpful for justice. This coming out is helpful for context holding people accountable. This coming out is helpful to understand how Josh Brown is perceived. And this family dynasty of Daystar is positioned a lot of times as we're this healthy ministerial family who loves God, who's doing this ministry. You should trust us, when a lot of the picture that's painted is of a very dysfunctional family that's doing ministry with a lot of money, a lot of influence, and their dysfunction is potentially spilling out even to the people that they're doing ministry to. But with all of this, this is going to make it hard on them. This stuff coming out is going to be uncomfortable for them. But I also think you're going to see exactly why it's concerning and why the detective wanted to know.
The behavior of Josh towards, like, I saw him, force himself on her to kiss her in the green room setting on 2 separate occasions. And both time I was just like, ooh, just why is he doing that?
All right. So is an uncle kissing a niece illegal? Is it enough to charge him? No. But JW says I saw multiple instances of Josh Brown forcing a kiss on this little one. He's going to explain more about it. Trigger warning: if you have been through any sort of SA, you've been around child SA, this can be very difficult for you as you hear some of these things. But again, none of these are probably enough to charge anybody over, but they're very important because there's a pattern here of concerning things that most of us would say would be very concerning with a child. And I don't care if you're a family member or not. I don't care if you're a mom or dad. If a person, kid or not, does not want to be kissed, don't kiss them. Do not force yourself physically on anybody else. Do not infringe on their liberty. That's something that we should all know.
One instance where I saw him like grab her and her trying to shrivel, kind of how kids and him force a mouth-to-mouth kiss, and then a separate.
Again, child or not, uncle or not, they said he tried to force a mouth-to-mouth kiss. The child was trying to struggle to get away when he saw this happen. That is very relevant information. And there's a letter that JW wrote much closer to when all this happened that documents it.
Occasion, I was very close. I was like this distance. I was sitting at a fridge with my back, and he was coloring at the table, and he came in and was asking for a kiss, kind of like this, and he grabbed her by the face and did a lip kiss on her there. And that was the one that I was close. When you're like 2 feet away from it, I wanted to freak out. It was weird,
It's weird, like a not blood uncle.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Kid, okay.
and even just anyone, I don't know. I wouldn't kiss.
We're
I
very
kiss my
protective
kids, but
people.
I thought it was.
All right, so they're going to talk about they thought it was super weird. I agree it was weird. JW, I appreciate. He said I didn't like that. I wanted to freak out. One of the things they're going to say through this, though, is we wanted to defer to the parents. It wasn't our kid. And one of the things I would kind of say is, even if you're in a family situation, I know it's uncomfortable. If someone is doing something that feels inappropriate with a kid, I think you call that out. And you know what would have actually been a gift? It would have been a gift, JW, to stay away from all this. If you had called out those concerns earlier, it would have made it uncomfortable for you, but it might have actually kept us from getting to this point. It might have caused everybody to look at Josh a little closer. It might have caused Josh to go, whoa, people are seeing this differently than I want. This doesn't look good. Man, I need to change my actions. We don't know what would have happened, but I think it's okay to call it out. This is not okay. And if you're an adult and you see somebody doing something with a kid and you go, oh, that makes me want to freak out. Freak out. Don't hurt somebody. Don't do anything criminal. But it is okay to say, hey, you may have different boundaries, but this doesn't look okay to me. And that kid does not look like they want any part of this. You need to stop. And look, if the parents disagree with you, then you got a whole different thing that you got to deal with. But this didn't even give the parents an opportunity to disagree with you. But again, I really appreciate JW and Rebecca because they both said, man, this didn't look right. We want to protect this kid, right? But this comes back to the struggle. Families involved. What do we want to say? What do we not? How much ownership do we take? And in the church, a lot of times, what is the church called? The church is your family. The church is your church family. So don't say things that would hurt people because you wouldn't do that about your family. And I think we got to draw a line in the sand to where we say, hey, when people are potentially being harmed, we've got to stop falling back on the excuse of family because family doesn't hurt family. And when family hurts family, we got to say something about that. And guys, I get this. I had to testify in court at my own dad's sentencing hearing. And my testimony put him in jail for longer, put him in prison for longer. I understand the discomfort of that. But I also understand right and wrong. And when family is hurting other people, when family's hurting other people, especially in the family, they lose the protections of the family. Not only that, but when we're talking about the church and church family, we got to be very careful. If the church wants to say they're your church family, but they're protecting someone in the family who is hurting someone else in the family, how else is the church described? It's described as the body of Christ, okay? And when the body starts attacking other parts of the body, that is called cancer. And we have to deal with that. We have to bring healing to it. So if you see something, it is important that we don't just see something, we say something. Family, real or felt, does not give anybody permission to hurt somebody else.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was weird.
I guess circling back to that letter, was it an email or a letter?
It was, I think
It's
it was
like a Google Doc.
like a note.
That I wrote out. It's like, this is the things this is the timing that I've, and the stuff that we've observed or I've observed that is strange and alarming and, that sort of thing.
Was it just the two instances of the kissing or is something else?
There's.
And again, I appreciate JW. I appreciate Rebecca. I think they really do want justice. But you're going to hear a lot in this first interview. I just want you to pay attention. A lot of, let me look at my wife. Let me look at the attorney. It feels like in this first interview, there's a lot of, I don't know what I should share. What I appreciate most is by the second interview, they were a lot more open, kind of throwing caution to the wind. And there were a couple of times where JW just had to stand up with the attorney and be like, nah, this is what we're doing. We want justice. So you're going to see a little bit more of a struggle in the first interview. Let me know if you see the shift in the second interview. But to me, there definitely appears to be a shift. There seems to be a lot more anxiety and a lot more concern about what they can and should share in this one.
Other things too.
The in 2020, yeah, that was 2020, when he said she walked in on me naked.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that?
That was weird.
2020 is when he said she walked in on him, and 21 is when he was allegedly watching her change her.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so here's what we've got so far. We've got 2021. This man, Josh, is allegedly in the room watching this little girl change. But before that, we have JW saying there were multiple instances where I saw himself forcing a kiss on her. It was uncomfortable. It felt wrong. And there was another situation where the child apparently walks in on this grown adult naked and he doesn't have the door locked. What is going on there? I think you would agree, even though this is not enough evidence to convict anybody, I think we would all agree there's a lot of smoke here. And Josh Brown, let's play this out and let's be as charitable as possible. Let's say that Josh Brown is completely innocent. Well, if he is completely innocent and there wasn't SA of this child involved, then he is very, very unwise and needs to learn from all of this. You don't behave with children this way. This is creepy. This is unwise. Most parents are going to get like ballistic with you. So even if you're not guilty of the very thing that was alleged, then you need to change your behavior forever, bro. Because this stuff is super creepy.
That's how I would frame that.
You think that you guys still have a record of that Google Doc or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think I'll be able to get it? Copy of it?
Yeah.
Do you hear how careful the attorney is being? Hey, so do you think like with that Google Doc, like maybe I could get a copy of it? And not the attorney, but the detective. Detectives have to be very careful in these situations because they don't have to share anything they don't want to share. I've heard rumblings that there was at one point potentially an attempted search warrant or subpoena from some of those things. I can't corroborate any of that, but a lot of times that you're at the mercy of a judge with that. So when you hear him hemming and hawing, he's trying to be very careful to get all the information he can when he doesn't know if the family's going to want to share.
No rush.
I'm going to Jerry now.
I don't know how to.
Can you email it to you, I guess?
Should
or
be able to, yeah. I think.
Can you do that?
Sure.
From your phone?
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you want it CC to you?
yeah, if you don't mind. If
Sure.
you can just give him that and just see.
Now, it sounds like they're going to cooperate. It sounds like they're going to give the letter, but keep listening, because actually this detective is going to have a much harder time getting the letter on record as this attorney, the wheels start to spin and he gets into what feels like protection mode for the organization. Instead of what everybody should be worried about here, let's not protect Daystar. Let's not protect anybody else. Let's search for truth, because the truth protects the innocent. The truth protects the child. The truth protects anybody who's innocent with allegations against them. Let's get to the truth. There shouldn't be any hiding it.
Sure. Again, it's nothing like formal. It was just kind of like,
but
you know, this is.
yeah.
I'm happy to share it. It was like, these are the things that.
Did you hear that? I'm happy to share that. One thing I will say is when he said he was happy to share it, right there, it didn't feel like he was happy to share it. It felt like he needed to keep explaining, like, hey, I don't want this to cause problems. And I know he was probably thinking about this getting out, causing problems with the family and all of that. And I think part of this is because of the attorney who is in the room, but there definitely seems to be some concern. He doesn't want the detective to think he doesn't want to share it or that he's hiding it, but there definitely seems some anxiety about hiding or about sharing it.
We're in this family, right? And these are things that we have seen that we're concerned about, you know? And so it was just written out. I don't know. I never thought that he was going to see the light of day.
Well, this
is.
You're gathering your thoughts because we
I
were
really
like,
was.
we were trying to figure out, is there like, was this an accident or is there like, because we care
Yeah.
about her, we care about our kids.
And that's what everybody is still figuring out. Whether a person meant for the Google Doc to see the light of day or not doesn't matter. The detective's saying this would be helpful. So the quicker you can share it, the more helpful that it is. And again, he talks about protecting family. Protecting family should never come at the expense of someone potentially being hurt.
And
We just
at
took
the
it
end of the day,
seriously.
despite like Josh's character and the way he's treated my wife and I
Yeah.
and like our family.
Now, this is big. They're about to describe Josh's character. Their experience with Josh, what they say about Josh's character, does not mean that Josh is guilty, but I think it gives us a good indication that there's just some massive red flags and concerns with Josh. There's also some massive splintering in this family. Okay, so there's this idea of we got to protect family, we got to protect family, we got to protect family. The family's already completely splintered. And if you got character concerns about someone already, then you need to share all of the stuff. Because if they've shown you character concerns in one area, then it's much more likely they have character concerns in another.
We have been, you know, professional and loving in the sense that we could have gone online and smeared him and like jumped on this a long time ago.
Because he's wronged us.
But because we've never seen anything incriminating, we just kept it between us and the professionals, you know, you being one of them.
Now, you don't have to say, I think Josh is guilty of these allegations, but you can also say, hey, I don't know if Josh is guilty of these allegations or not, but we've seen some concerns, not only with his behavior with children, but we've seen character concerns. That is not slander. That is not gossip. That is very valid of, hey, we want this investigation done because here are the concerning things that we have seen. We're not implying guilt, but dang it, we need justice. We need professionals to investigate this. We need everybody to cooperate because there are concerns. And I know that is going to cause you issues with this family member. But you got to get down to the truth. And Josh has got to see how his character, how the way he's treating people, how his actions have all played into this.
And so it's like,
because it's like, I don't know for sure if he did
that's
or
one of the
not.
worst things you can be accused of.
And so I'm
and not
like,
be.
if you tell the whole world and it's not true,
Mhm.
that's wrong.
You know, that's one of those things I'm not.
It is wrong to tell the whole world somebody did something when you don't know if it's true or not. It is not wrong to say, hey, this person's been alleged to do something concerning, and here are the concerns I've seen, and here's the character issues that I've seen. That is not wrong. That is valid information. Now, do you have to share all that publicly? That's up to you and your convictions, but it definitely needs to be shared with the professionals. And this is January of 2025 is the first time that a detective is hearing these things. When we've heard about this letter, I know about this letter November of last year. We've heard about this letter for a really long time.
Not here to. My job is not to find the people and make them go to jail or anything. My job is to hear everything, and if they're innocent, prove they're innocent. If they're guilty, prove they're guilty.
Yeah.
That's it. So, I mean, it's 50-50 thing. So.
And we want to know
I feel 50-50
the
on this.
truth. We want to know the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm good too.
Yeah.
But this part of it is, that letter.
And I think they really do want to know the truth. I really do. JW is honest. I feel 50-50 on this. I'm 50-50, flip a coin on whether this guy actually essayed this child or not. This is not, hey, he's family, but he's not shown me anything in his character and his actions to make me go, well, that's absolutely not true. The biggest buoy in this not being true at this point, the biggest question is that polygraph, which they're going to ask about later. They've never even seen this polygraph. Okay. So I really do believe they want justice. I believe they want the truth. And I think that's why you see what feels like such a turn to me in the second interview.
Is a recurring theme. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be any good at my job if I didn't even ask about it.
I guess my
Yeah.
request would be
His email, he says, yeah.
Yeah.
if I do, or when I do send it,
Now you're going to hear the concern because the detective's been very easy. This letter, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask for this letter. This letter, it feels like it could be relevant. Could you share this letter? He's trying to be very easy. You're going to hear Josh's concern. You're going to hear the attorney's concern, and you're going to see some roadblocks be put up, I believe mainly by the attorney, that are going to keep it hard for this letter to get on record. We still don't know a lot of what this letter says.
can we just agree to keep it private? Because the last thing I want is another thing online being sensationalizing, but I'm happy to.
So the information that was released from the previous report, that was given to the parents. So the parents took that and released it against my wishes. Not even know they did it.
All right, so a couple of things that are important here. One, JW says his concern is about things being online, being sensationalized. Maybe that is part of his concern. But I don't think things being online, true things being online, is much of a problem. I think the concern, if we're being completely honest, and again, only JW can actually tell us, it looks like the concern to me is I don't want things online linked to me that look like they were leaked from me, because Joni and others are going to get mad. People in the family are going to get mad. So I want to help find justice, but I really don't want people to know that I was a part of it. I really don't want, because of the family dysfunction. That would be my guess there. Okay. Now the detective, again, you got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt. I don't know what's true and I don't know what's not, but these detectives, they really have to try to build a relationship with people, because this is not something they can force JW and Rebecca to give them this letter. They have to choose that. So he says, hey, I understand your concern. Some of the things that were leaked already were leaked because the family wanted those leaked. I didn't even know about it. Now, that is neither here nor there. I can't decide whether they should or whether they shouldn't have. But what I will say is, again, multiple times he goes back to, it's things that bloggers have said, YouTubers and podcasters have said, that lead to even some of his questions. And as I've talked to Josh or to Jonathan and Susie over this process, I'm not super close to them, but I've talked to them multiple times through message. I believe they've shared everything they have shared just in the pursuit of justice when they felt like there was no other option. And the fact that this stuff has gotten out has pushed this investigation to go farther than I believe it probably would have went otherwise. So I think that's important to know. You got this struggle of, man, I don't want to cause more of a rift in my family. I don't want to cause more of a rift in my professional life, but I do want justice. That's the struggle that I see.
I didn't even know they released anything until I started getting calls from them.
And that's what I don't want.
I understand.
Yeah. But I'm happy to help you in your investigation, because I too want the truth. Honestly, I have a daughter. And
I'm happy to help you in your investigation. JW, I would encourage you to think about this. What if you sharing this stuff and it going public, because it's being shared now, again, man, just read scripture. Everything that's done in darkness, every hidden thing is going to be brought to light. Those are the words of Jesus, okay? It's going to happen, right? But what if this stuff being shared publicly leads to someone else giving relevant information from something else that you don't know about, right? You don't know how that could actually help justice. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just going to be honest. When we try to protect ourselves, and I want to help with justice, but I also want to protect myself, when we do that, we usually end up making cowardly decisions. I've had to want justice with family members, and it has literally cost me. Okay? It has cost me. The only times that we're trying to protect people, I mean, if we get taken to court over something, I'm not trying to protect me. I'm not trying to protect SAI. The only people that we would try to protect are the people who are anonymously giving us this stuff to protect them from retaliation. So again, I don't know if he meant it that way, and I'm not calling JW a coward, but at some point, justice and truth have to matter more to us than our own comfort. Period. And he seems very worried about his own comfort here, which I get. But at some point, man, if this family is really this dysfunctional, if you have that much fear with going to work and everything else, then guys, go find another job. Go do something else, right? It may actually be better for your relationship with your family to not work with them every day and to not have all of this stuff hanging over your head.
This is, very intimate to my life, but I just don't want to further cause a storm or a swirl or a web of stuff online and all that.
Well, so
it feels to me like Joni has been villainizing all the online people for so long that he has taken it to heart. I think at one point he calls them like internet terrorists or something like that. Honestly, man, I would go back and look. Has everybody done this well? JW, no. But I would say there's been a lot more good that has come from this stuff being reported on than not. And if Josh didn't want this stuff reported on, he shouldn't have put himself in a situation to do that. Okay. Because I'm just going to tell you, I'm an uncle, and there aren't any allegations of me kissing my nieces or anything else like that because I don't. Because that's weird. Now, other people may have different boundaries, but what you do is you don't put yourself in situations. For me, I don't put myself in situations where anything could be misconstrued because I love my family. I love those girls. I love my nieces and nephews and everybody else. So, man, I'm not going to do anything that can make anybody wonder. If Josh didn't want people asking questions about this, then he shouldn't have had so much questionable behavior over time. And the best thing that everybody in the family could do, Josh, Joni, everybody involved, is just say, hey, we're 100% openly cooperating with this investigation. All of this stuff, though, it still makes it look like there are people trying to hide things. And although I don't think JW and Rebecca are trying to hide as much, all of this makes it look like we've got this fear of hiding things to protect our well-being, to protect our jobs, to protect our family. And we just got to stop that stuff.
I don't release anything to me, and as long as even if it's suspended, active, or anything, if it's not closed, they can't release anything anyways. I can't.
So when this case closes, or if this case closes,
stuff is open to public record. That's what we're getting at. So that's the thing. So,
and there's the concern. When this investigation closes, it can become public. I don't know that I want to share. Now, the attorney is going to come in with some options and opportunities, but all this is going to do is this is going to make it harder for the detective to put on record the things that are in the letter. And he doesn't just need to know what's in the letter. He needs to be able to put them on record to be able to take before a judge for potential charges, for potential search warrants to get other information. So again, I get their discomfort, but if he's saying this will help him, why not share it?
I'm not going to lie to you and say, no, I'll just hold it onto it for everything. Everything I document is open to record eventually if anything gets impounded. So I guess consult with him, see what.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what you all told me at your home, that you wanted a thorough investigation, right?
Yeah.
In order for this have some closure.
Yeah.
This is the man to do it. I mean, that's why he has to ask for it.
Yeah.
That's up to you all.
And again, this sounds good. The attorney is being honest. Hey, you said you wanted this to come to closure. You want truth. This is a way to do it. But watch how he inserts himself into the situation and makes it more difficult. So he's going to make everybody feel better. Oh, you're going to share the letter so you can feel better about it. You're pursuing truth. Yet he's going to put what I perceive as a roadblock right in front of this actually being as helpful to the investigation as it should be. And that's the problem. At some point, as Christians, as ministers, as all of that, at some point we've got to say, and I had the same conversation with my attorney the other day, because I warned one of our attorneys, I'm going to push back on you on some stuff because your job is to protect me as a lawyer. It's to protect SAI as a lawyer, but my job is to protect the people we're serving. And not everything you tell me to do is something that we can do because of my faith, because of our mission. At some point as Christians in the church, sometimes we just got to go, hey, lawyer, I appreciate you saying that. That's not what we're going to do here. Now, to his credit, JW does that a little bit, but I feel like there's places where it could have been done more. And it's just a reminder, guys, just because a lawyer tells you to do something, that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do morally. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do Christian-wise. Follow your convictions. I can't give JW's convictions, but we got to follow our own convictions.
All as to, I guess, the collateral consequences of that would be, that fallout. Eventually, this becoming.
I mean, there's nothing in the in the Google Doc that's not true. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
like,
it's what we
A lot of
saw
this
and
is-
it's our
a lot of
thoughts.
this is opinions.
If there's nothing in it that's not true and it is what you saw and what you thought, why not share it? Again, if it makes Josh mad, well, Josh, that's what they saw. That's what they thought. If it makes Joni mad, I'm sorry, Joni. That's what we saw. That's what we thought. We had these concerns.
Things
Yeah.
too that he puts in there, you know.
it wasn't for public consumption.
Yeah.
It was
So,
our
yeah.
concern, and it was kind of
The attorney says there's a lot of commentary and stuff in there. When you actually see the detective read this, he basically says everything that I see in here is relevant except for some scripture at the end. So he seems to think there's a lot more that they think is commentary that he thinks is relevant. At least that's the way that I took it.
gathering all of our thoughts. Like, okay,
That's
these are
right.
all the things. Let's put it down.
Let me do it this way. I think it's probably better to do it this way just to prevent the fallout, if you will. What you observed and saw, why don't we get that and give it to Detective
That's cool.
Garcia without all the other commentary. So you have a lot of commentary.
Yeah, because it was
Now, here's what he's not clarifying as well. When he says get it to the detective, what it looks like he means is let him read it, but not enter it into the record. Let him read it silently, and then he has an idea of it. We're also redacting some things we don't want him to see, but then it's not going to be entered in the record. It's not going to be something that can be used publicly. It's not going to be something that can go before a judge. That is my understanding from this. Now, again, he talks about the commentary and everything else, but he talks about the fallout. He says, I think this is a good way to do this to avoid the fallout. So far, the only fallout I'm seeing that is legitimate is the fallout with family and the fallout professionally with because they work with their family at Daystar. Now, again, for my wife and I to follow our convictions and not sign an NDA, I ended up losing my career. We had to go without a severance payment. It was hard. It caused some fallout. It was worth it. That was my conviction. All the conviction seems to be, though, with family and your own professional life, this feels like it's worth the fallout. And as Christians, we cannot justify not pursuing the truth. We cannot justify not protecting people because we're trying to avoid fallout. And again, total credit to JW. Later on, he pushes against the attorney. He said a lot of things, and because of the things he says on these videos, it is going to cause fallout. So I appreciate his courage to do that.
never meant to be something.
Yeah,
for someone.
and so there's a lot of commentary and opinions.
You're good
And,
at that.
It was
so-
putting all your thought.
I don't care if you didn't like the Diet Coke in the video.
Yeah.
I don't care about that.
Let's do it that way. Why don't you?
Okay, cool.
Here's what
I'll
I need
remember.
you to do. Email it to me first.
Okay.
Let me go through it.
Email it to me first. Let me go through it. Why? So that I can redact anything that we don't want in this. Again, this is just protectionism.
And take all the commentary out. And I'll, for instance, one you put in there, I'm just thinking about him holding the kids in the pool.
Yeah.
You thought that was weird how
I
he
did,
held
yeah.
the kids in the pool, but
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, he was just holding the kids in the pool. He thought
He was being like
nice.
an airplane, with his hands underwater, and I just remember thinking, like, why is his hands underwater with those kids?
All the kids. So
If you look at the attorney's face, maybe it's just me, my opinion. But when you look at the attorney's face, I think he's sitting there. It looks to me like he's going, dude, why are you sharing that information? Because he said, okay, here's something I would redact. It was commentary. It was just opinion and commentary about the kids in the pool. And how did the attorney explain it? He was in the pool with the kids. They thought it was weird. And then JW gives more information. He was being an airplane. His hands were under the water with the kids. It felt weird. It felt, something about it felt off. Why were his hands underwater with the kids? Okay. Now, do you see why that's important not to be redacted? What the attorney just said and how he described it is different from how JW described it. And it seems relevant to the investigation because in addition to the multiple forced kisses, in addition to allowing the little girl to walk in on him unclothed, because that's not locked, in addition to him being in the room while the little girl was changing, all that sort of stuff. Well, now we get another concern. Doesn't necessarily mean he's guilty, but it's another yellow red flag.
that was one I just remembered. But there could be a couple of others. So let me have him give it to me.
Yeah.
I'll forward it to you, minus all the commentary and opinions, etc. Okay.
But what he's redacting is his opinion on what's commentary and opinion. And based on what he thought was just commentary, I would have to say, attorney, I totally disagree with you. You're doing your job, but this is why we have to say my convictions matter more to me than just the advice of an attorney.
That work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really just interested in the stuff relevant to this stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
Yeah.
I know I'm joking about the Diet Coke thing, but if you have gripes with Daystar, with all due respect, I don't care about Daystar and this whole thing. I just care about art. So,
And he's trying to be clear. Why did the detective say that? Hey, I just want to be clear. This is not about Daystar. I don't give a crap about Daystar. Why did he say that? Because he's trying to let them know, and I think he's sensing, if your fear is this is going to hurt your job, if your fear is that you're going to say something about Daystar that's going to hurt your position at Daystar, your job, anything like that, it's going to get you upset with your mom, the boss. I don't care about that. You can redact that. I care about what's going on with this kid. So again, I'm always asking, why is the detective saying the things he's saying? They're intentional. Why is he asking what he's asking? Why he's saying that is literally because I think he is sensing the fear of retaliation from Daystar.
Us too.
Us
We
too.
really care about. And I feel like at the end of the day, she's been the biggest.
Victim.
Yeah, in the sense that, I mean, whether or not something happened to her,
Yeah,
it's gonna haunt her for a long time.
It
Just
is.
the internet, and so, and like, why are they doing it publicly like this is ridiculous to me. But
All right, again, a couple of things there. I believe they really do want this. I think the problem for them and this detective is, where does work at Daystar and my professional life end and my family life begin? That is a super blurred line in this kind of ministry environment. This is why nepotism is such a big deal in churches. Every church that has family members serving together is not a bad church, but it allows for these ridiculous blurred lines that cause a lot more fear from people doing the right thing, even what they perceive as the right thing. He goes back again, though, and I don't understand why they're doing this publicly. Why they're doing this so publicly is kind of ridiculous. But go back, JW, multiple times. The questions, the concerns, the things the detective is asking about, they came from online. And at the end of the day, when we look at 1 Timothy 19 and 20, when we look at the end of Matthew 18, concerns about immorality and impropriety in the church, both with leaders and not, ends up publicly. When we look at all of Scripture, there's a lot of public concerns and rebukes. The church, at the end of Matthew 18, the church is supposed to decide this thing. So the Bible actually gives more credence to things going public and being weighed than we often give to it.
yeah, I agree with you that way that she's the victim of this whole thing. So,
Yeah.
Regardless if she was a victim
that's
of
why-
assault or not,
Yeah.
whatnot. So.
when we saw the things that we saw, whether or not they were just creepy and weird, or we just went and told the parents immediately, because like that's what I would want someone to do
Yeah.
if somebody saw something.
Exactly.
When you, I mean, you have kids.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I
my,
wouldn't be as level-headed as you, but
I don't think I was.
I don't know if he'll be level-headed.
Yeah.
it just wasn't our kid.
It wasn't my kid.
As an
So we
example,
had-
he told me,
I don't know if I would be as level-headed as you. I don't know if I was level-headed. I was really upset about it. It just wasn't our kid. Guys, Jesus, the golden rule. He says all the law and the prophets hang on these things. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. Love your neighbor as yourself. If I see somebody else doing something to another child that I would not be okay with them doing to my child, I'm going to say something, because that's living out the golden rule. Literally all the prophets, all the law, everything in Scripture could come down to, whoa, 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 whoa. I wouldn't want to be treated that way. I wouldn't want my kid to be treated that way. You're not treating that kid that way. That's inappropriate. If you want to kick me out of your house because you disagree with me, you can kick me out. That is inappropriate. Okay. Same thing. Love my neighbor as myself. Maybe the other parents aren't going to agree with me, but I would not want that to happen with my kids and somebody else not know, or for me to step in. So again, I think the idea of this was not my kid. I think JW, if he's honest with himself, I think a lot of that is, God, that's not my kid. Do I want to cause a rift in the family? Do I want to cause a rift in the family? And I think that's what so much of this has come back to. The fear of, do I want to cause a rift in the family members who sign my very paycheck? And at some point, we just got to do the right thing.
if he saw anyone, his daughter like that, then he would
would've
become
gone
a
ballistic.
defense attorney.
But he's not our kid.
If that was my kid, I would have went ballistic and needed a defense attorney. Okay. Well, again, let's not ask what you felt comfortable with. Let's not ask what other people say. What does Jesus say? Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Love your neighbor as yourself. And guess what? That's the same Jesus who went ballistic in the temple courts, turning over tables. At some point, we got to turn over tables, even if everybody else, including that kid's parents, disagree with us.
You know, we defer to the parents.
Most of the details I got about you guys, or questions I have about you guys, is from all the information that's being just shot out there.
Sure.
Why do they keep going public? I'm so frustrated about them going public. Well, the detective just answered it right there. Most of the questions I have for you guys and the information I'm trying to get, it comes from stuff that's been shot out there in the public. That's the answer.
It just wasn't our kid.
It wasn't
as
our kid.
an
So we
example,
had-
he told me if he saw anyone his daughter like that, then
He would have gone ballistic.
defense attorney.
Yeah.
But he's not our kid. You know, we defer to the parents.
Most of the stuff, most of the details I got about you guys, or questions I have about you guys, is from all the information that's being just shot out there.
Sure.
One of the things that was mentioned repeatedly was you guys don't allow Josh at the house. Is the kind of the same thing because it's just weird.
Yeah, because
The detective wouldn't have known to ask questions. Hey, why is it that you, as brother-in-law, sister-in-law, don't feel comfortable with Josh being at your house? He wouldn't have known to ask that if it wasn't for public reporting.
one of the things that he would do is he has been really bad to us through the years, and he would treat us one way when my sister was there or my mom was there, and then when no one was there, he would be, I mean, when they were there, he would be decent to us, and when no one was around, he would be mean. And I saw him be that way with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my kids are not
confused our
dealing with that
kids.
kind of behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm super protective of my kids anyway. And we didn't have a friendship, so there was no reason for him to come to our house. But I don't trust.
All right, and she finishes, sorry, I cut it off in the middle of it. I don't trust him. I want you to think about some of the things she's saying. Again, does this mean he's guilty? No. But I think we're seeing a very different picture than Joni Lamb and others have wanted to be painted. We're this close family. I don't know. We just love each other so much and love the Lord. I don't know why Jonathan has done all this, why Susie has done all this, and they're just trying to hurt the family. And man, they've just been overcome by the spirit of greed and all these other things. They painted this picture of, man, we just love each other. We're close as a family. And the picture that is being painted with the detective is, no, this is a wildly dysfunctional family. They don't trust each other. There's a lot of concerns, a lot of mistrust all the way around. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I've been a part of a dysfunctional family. But a lot of the public story from Daystar and from Joni has made it feel like it's just on Jonathan and Susie. No, there's a lot of concerns here. And even though it doesn't mean that Josh is guilty, it's important to know that, look, she said, I don't trust him. I don't want him in my house. He has not been a good guy to us. That's important character information for people to know. Because I've never heard any of those things. They kind of have made it sound almost publicly like there's no reason to question Josh Brown. Well, it sounds like there's at least good reasons to question Josh Brown. And there's good reasons to wonder what the forensic investigator said. And there's good reasons to have investigators look into this.
Trust him.
But then after the allegations came out from
That was-
then it was like, yeah, you're just not allowed here.
Yeah, that was enough for us.
Yeah.
So it was.
But there was other reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's a jerk and.
Yeah.
You don't think he's treating your kids right.
Correct. We caught.
Correct. We don't want him around. They're going to clarify here in a minute. The allegations, the SA allegations was like the final straw, but they're clarifying to the detective, yeah, we don't want Josh around because he's a jerk and he's mean to our kids. Again, very important character information. Also, why would a guy be perceived as being mean to one person's set of kids and then being inappropriate with other kids? Ask you some very, very important questions.
I didn't like being mean to our son once when he didn't know we were looking.
He has manipulative behavior.
And I was just kind of like, I don't want to deal. I don't
I've
want my
caught
kid
him
to deal
lying.
with that. So.
Very important things again. Rebecca says he has manipulative behavior and I've caught him lying. Okay, well, that's very important because if Josh is saying, whoa, I didn't do this, we're not saying you did, but if you've shown manipulative behavior before coming from your own family and they say they've caught you lying, then they should all be asking deeper questions. And in my opinion, you shouldn't be just saying, well, Joni said there was a polygraph. Let me see it because I've caught him lying before.
It's one thing to be mean to me and Rebecca and I as adults, that's like just not tolerable in a professional environment, in my opinion. But you're not going to do things to my kids.
That's where I draw the
That's
line.
not gonna happen.
My kids aren't going to have to deal with that kind of back and forth behavior where 1 second you're nice and then you flip on a dime, and so it's one of the reasons.
Again, this is just my opinion, just my questions. I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not trying to say that Josh is any of these things. I've never met Josh. I don't know anything about his mental health, his behavior. But anytime I hear someone say, oh, I got someone who's really, really nice at one point, and then they turn on a dime and they're completely mean, the phrase that comes to my head is this narcissistic behavior? It's just a red flag. It's just a question. because narcissists, especially people within NPD, they very much so will turn on that dime. It's I love you, I'm love bombing you, I love you, I'm the greatest thing, you're safe with me, to total gaslighting, total mad, total rage. So again, I don't know that to be the case here, but I think it's an important question.
I don't trust him.
That clarifies it for me.
2, maybe 3 times there, multiple times she has said, I don't trust him, talking about Josh Brown. That is very important to this investigation. It's very important to anybody paying attention to this.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Trying to picture the notes real quick.
And because the allegations too.
It was a combination.
That was, I guess, before, and then the allegations kind of said, okay, she's not over to the house anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think they ever really came over.
They never came over.
Right,
We're not friends.
Yes, the allegations played a big role in it, but like Rebecca is laughing and wanted to be very clear there. We are not friends with my sister or Josh Brown. We're not friends because of who he is and because of his character and because of the problems. So again, the picture's painted, Jonathan and Susie, why are you doing this to our family? Whoa. Nobody so far has taken any ownership. I don't know if Josh Brown is guilty or not, but Josh Brown is facing these allegations because of Josh Brown's behavior. From my perspective, it's because the way he's treated people, because of the questionable things he's done, because of just the way he's carried himself, because people feel like he's lied to them and everything else. The way he has operated in this family is what got him here. All right. And so far, I haven't heard him take ownership for that. I haven't heard Joni or anybody else take ownership for that. But it's no, let's villainize Jonathan and Susie when we're almost completely giving a pass to Josh Brown for this behavior. He sounds like, man, most of us, we have somebody in our family who is that person. He sounds like that person in the family.
We're friends. They very much didn't like us.
Kept their lives private.
Yeah, very much secretive. They really cozied up to Jonathan and Susie because they saw like Jonathan and Susie as like the next ones to lead, and so they very much wanted to be like as close to that as they could. And I think that's part of why they were so into their kids.
So what JW and Rebecca here, they're describing what looked like Josh wanting to be in proximity to power, but not caring as much about people who don't have power. Again, that's just their opinion, but I think it's important.
Like Rachel and Josh try to be really buddy-buddy with Jonathan and Susie. We speculated, is it because he was mean to them and then he flipped.
So yeah, I forgot about that.
He sowed a lot of division in our family.
Again, being mean to them and flipping. She's going to use the narcissist word here in a minute and say, I'm not a mental health professional, but it makes me wonder. And again, that flipping is always a big question, that wanting to be close to power. Those are elements of this. So I think it makes sense why she's asking that question.
And that's something that's not being talked about online, but
we don't want people talking about this stuff online. Why are everybody going public online? Yet she just says it's kind of frustrating. Nobody's talking about Josh and his behavior. Nobody's talking about his behavior and this sort of stuff online. Nobody's talking about the division he sowed in our family. Okay. Well, we're not talking about that, JW and Rebecca, because nobody else has said anything about that kind of stuff except for Jonathan and Susie. And the rest of us have been attacked for even asking questions like that.
I personally feel like he has narcissistic tendencies.
Okay. Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I can't diagnose him.
Legal disclaimer. I don't know. My opinion, not a psychologist.
But every now and then you meet somebody, I'm not saying it's him, but every now and then you meet somebody who's that dude's got issues. But
Yeah.
So in the Florida house thing, second time, 2021, one of the reports or blogs online said that you guys were upset because you weren't part of a family meeting or something.
Not upset, just kind of like whatever. We were outside when the whole thing happened.
Yeah.
Driving Lamb flew the door open. He was beat red. We were outside by the pool with
our son. We only had him
and
at the time.
he said, it's all going down right now. I caught Josh. And we walked in, and Josh is chasing Jonathan around the house saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
Okay, this has been reported before, but you're hearing it right here. First of all, there's two important things. One, JW and Rebecca, it seems like, had to insert themselves in this meeting. So it almost feels like even within the family, makes you wonder, were they trying to keep this just between Josh and Rachel and Jonathan and Susie, trying to smooth this over? But the other thing, he said something that's been reported on multiple times, and you hear his inflection talking about this, that he comes into the house and Josh is chasing around Jonathan saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. What's the apology for if nothing bad happened? Okay? If what he said happened, man, I'm looking at the city view. I'm talking to the son, and all of a sudden the daughter comes in and starts changing. Then I wouldn't be saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I would be going, whoa, bro, she walked in. I didn't even know. Like, I didn't know. What can I do to help? Right? Like, there would be a different response there. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What was he apologizing for? I would love to hear from Josh Brown. What in the heck were you apologizing for? Because multiple people have said this. This seems one of the most consistent things that we have heard. You were apologizing, and it very similar to how someone would apologize if they got caught. So if you weren't apologizing for what Jonathan thought he saw you do, what were you apologizing for?
And Rachel's screaming and Susie's screaming, and then like
They all went and
they
met.
all went down to meet in the
We
basement.
were like, we want to be a part of this because we're part of this family.
That was it, yeah.
But
like, should we be there? It's kind of like, should we talk this out or figure this out? And
Yeah,
they just told us to stay away.
We've always cared. And the thing is,
Why did people want them to stay away? Again, man, the less people that know about something, the easier it is to control the narrative about it. That would be my opinion.
too, is that when all of that went down with someone went upstairs, because there's different versions of that, I have no idea what actually happened because both of us were outside with Asher.
Yeah,
and that
that's
was
true.
part of the problem too.
Now there's two totally
I just
different
believe
narratives.
Susie.
You know, there's the city view and then
There's two different narratives. JW is about to make both narratives sound like it's hard to know what to say. But did you hear Rebecca? I just believe Susie. Yet, because of what feels like pressure from the family, until this video, we've heard nothing from JW and Rebecca. Jonathan and Susie very early in the reporting, hey, they know some stuff. They felt this way too. They had concerns. We're hoping that comes out. We're hoping they would support us. That's stuff that I remember seeing in the early reporting. Again, they're helping here, but they don't want anybody to know. And it's kind of like that. We believe Susie. We think there's something going on here. There's great concerns, but we don't want to do anything publicly that would hurt our family. And it's kind of like, hey, if your conviction is that you believe Susie, stand by the conviction. If your conviction is that Josh's behavior with the kids was inappropriate, stand by your conviction. Don't worry about the family.
this, you know,
Yeah.
there's one view that Rachel shared and one view that Susie shared.
Susie
At the
says
time-
he deliberately went up, and then the other version is it was an
No,
accident.
Susie says that he went into a trance and his
The
eyes
black
went dark,
eyes,
and
yeah.
he followed her up the room, and she raced to get Jonathan, and he dropped his toothbrush and sprinted up the stairs and caught Josh staring. You know, and then the other version would be, you know, Israel, the son, wanted to show Josh the city view when they went up together to look at the city view, and then nothing changed. So
All right, now a couple of things are important here. One, not trying to bag on them too much because Rebecca just said, we believe Susie. They've shared a lot of their concerns. But did you hear the difference in the way JW told those two stories? One had a lot of what felt like sarcasm laced in it, like just really embellishing what Susie said. And then the other one, it was like, yeah, the other one's a city view and everything else. I think that was potentially a bit of a Freudian slip. Again, if all you've heard is Joni and others in the family villainizing Susie and her story and how it's embellished and made up and this, that, and the other, then it would be very easy for you to tell it the way it's been told to you so many times. And that's why I say I think that was a bit of a slip. I think he may have, in the way he told it, let us know exactly how this story has been presented to him. That you got one story that's logical and one story that's, whoa, just way out there.
there's two totally different like spins on the same thing.
And we have no
And
idea.
we don't know. Honestly, don't know because we weren't in the room. You know, you can't.
No,
really-
we only saw the after events where my brother immediately came in.
And you can't know. But one thing you can say that you do say here that I wish you had said earlier, though, one thing you could have said this whole time is, yeah, there were a whole lot of concerns leading up to that. That wasn't the only one. So, yes, this is very suspicious and should be looked into. Also, and again, it's different asking kids questions and everything else, but there's these two narratives. Israel, the son, wanted Josh to come see the city view, and that Josh went up right after he heard that the girl was going to change. I have just always wondered this whole time, like, what does the child say? Like, not baby Lim. What does the son say? Which narrative he can kind of offer some clarity here? I would wonder as he grows up and gets older if he would be able to do that.
We're close to Jonathan and Susie, you know.
I guess, what do you guys, another dumb question.
Now, again, this doesn't mean anybody's guilty or not guilty, but it's important as well. They were basically saying up to this point, we really had nothing to do with Josh. We don't trust Josh. Josh was mean to us. We didn't have anything to do with Josh and Rachel outside of these family events. We were close to Jonathan and Susie. I do think that's important for at least just understanding character and relationship.
What do you guys think about the whole thing? Like, what, think there's an angle for somebody, or okay, what?
No?
Oh, I don't know.
With Jonathan and Susie, right?
Oh, anybody, I guess.
I think there's two angles. So yeah, go ahead. You're first.
Well, we had some friends tell us that my brother's, like, one of the things he's trying to do through all of this is he's trying to become president.
Again, just think about this. A couple of things. One, if Jonathan was just trying to become president, they're going to talk about that narrative multiple times. They do get upset about that. Why was he putting his career first? So the first thing I would say, if Jonathan was just trying to become president, then everything he's done in the last year doesn't make sense. Because everything he's done in the last year, it cost him his job. It cost him what will probably be any future opportunity to become the president. It's cost him alienation in his family. It's cost him tons of money. Like, literally, it's cost the guy everything. So if he was doing all this for a career move, you would think at some point he would have stopped. I don't think that argument holds water. JW and Rebecca may have heard that a lot, but thinking about it logically, that feels like an ignorant argument at this point. Okay. But the other thing, think about what Rebecca said. One of our friends told us this. He's your brother. You said you were close to him. Do you believe that's what happened or not? Have you sat down and had the conversations with him early? I know they're not talking now, but early to decide what happened. Why would you as a sister be saying, well, some of our friends said this? How would your friends know more about it than you? How would they know more about it than Jonathan? But also, if your friends said that was right, then why has Jonathan made every decision that basically lit his career up in flames over the last year?
So it's not just, everything that he's doing there, it was intentional. And I know for a year, however, so he was conspiring. He was doing that.
Yeah, and if he really thought that his daughter was touched, he shouldn't have just buried that until it was time to suit him and his career.
Again, it feels like you can tell the narrative they've heard so long. They've heard it for so long, they're starting to believe it. We've got enough information from Jonathan and Susie. A lot of the quote unquote covert stuff that they were doing was trying to find truth. Also, if you believe that your daughter was SA'd, why did you just sit on it? Well, you got to remember, JW, they were told by Joni and I believe Marcus before he passed away that Josh was cleared by a forensic investigator. And they had the polygraph and everything else. It wasn't until much later that they found out the forensic investigator never cleared Josh. Okay? So again, it seems like they've heard a narrative so long from Joni that they believed it, even though it doesn't seem to make logical sense.
He should have gotten that addressed. Context around this. This was written in, I guess it would be 2020.
Okay, and just for clarification, if you didn't notice their clothes changing and stuff like that, this is the second interview, and I think you'll notice they're much more open to share here, and they seem to buck the same attorney in the room a little bit more here. Also, the attorney seems to be trying to control things from my perspective a little bit more here.
21.
It was after
and it was never something that was to ever see any public face. It was literally me and her trying to get my mind around the fact of these things that we witnessed. This event in Florida had happened, and it was so dramatic and kind of seared in everyone's memory. And then all of a sudden, Marcus and Joni said Josh is innocent. He hasn't done anything.
That's important. Who said Josh was innocent? Marcus and Joni. Why'd they say he was innocent? He hasn't done anything. Where did that come from? Let's go back through what we know through public reporting, which is why public reporting is important on this, JW. They said he was innocent because the forensic investigator cleared him. That was what I understand. And Jonathan found out later that he didn't. Okay, so again, I don't know, and maybe y'all are asking it behind closed doors. They do say they don't really trust either sides, but I would be asking if that is true. If they said he was cleared because the forensic examiner or investigator cleared him, and that wasn't true, and they didn't clear him, which I believe that person's went on record saying, if all that is true, then when did you ask Joni why she lied? That kind of thing is important.
So it was just literally I would call it a brainstorming document. Yeah. So that as you read it, it's just it's not it's not a well-written anything. Yeah. But
it's not.
It's been mentioned so much that
yeah. So you're talking about so it says Jonathan and Susie. Would that be talking about Anybody in particular? Or?
All right, and a couple of things again where you see the cuts here. There's a ton on the original video. There's a ton where it's just fast forwarding through it because it was no dialogue because the detective was reading this. This seems to be a crazy long document. There's a lot of stuff here. He's reading it. He's reading it silently. I know some people have asked, people in the chat, attorneys, on other videos and everything else, why didn't the detective read this out loud? Well, he could have tried, and definitely I probably would have tried to get it on the record, but all the attorney would have had to have done, or JW or anybody else, all they would have had to have done was said, nope, you can't read that out loud, and they could have taken it back. So he may have lost the opportunity by even trying to read it out loud to find out what was in it for himself, just trying to get it on the record. So I can definitely see that would have been risky to try to even get this information.
This is your timeline of events for the whole Josh thing, I guess. Just abbreviated. Okay.
Yeah. So talking about him wooing them.
It's kind of like,
and
when you
she
have
can
an
provide
iPhone.
context for that.
Yeah, I remember you said that they were really close to Jonathan and Susie.
All right, so a couple of things they're talking about in the letter. Obviously, JW said something was writing about different ways that Josh was wooing them. They're going to explain a little bit more about that here in a minute. But wooing people, trying to win people over, it almost sounds manipulative. And again, sounds like another one of those red flags, those elements that would say, hey, that would make us at least ask the question, is there some narcissistic tendencies here with Josh? The other thing has really nothing to do with the investigation, but why in the world is an attorney in 2025 not turning their dang phone off before they go into an interview with a detective, bro? Like, use the silence button. It's kind of ridiculous.
Because they thought they were going to, I guess, take over, since I guess that part about the kiss. I didn't emphasize my questioning last time, but was it like a peck on the lips, or was it like a full-on adult, like, gross kiss?
Yeah, I could show you on her. It was pretty gross.
Was it? Okay.
Kind of like this. Like, his lips were like open. I just remember because he used to have braces, and I just would be like, oh, that's disgusting.
It wasn't just like
It
was like a
good 2 seconds hold there, and she's just kind of like.
and she was trying.
What he is describing is an adult holding a minor's face with an open mouthed kiss for 2 seconds that it looks like the kid is trying to squirm away from and doesn't want. That feels like assault to me.
And she's just kind of like.
And she was turning away. And the thing that I remember seeing is he was like right in front of her, and he was like this much, I mean, literally like this close.
Yeah.
And he was like down on her level, and he kept whispering, give me a kiss, give me a kiss. And he wouldn't leave her alone. It was so weird. You're like,
It's not just weird, that's creepy. That's real creepy. That's real gross.
leave her alone. Like, she doesn't want to kiss. Like, that's so strange. She's not even your kid. Like, I wouldn't even do that with my own kids. It was.
That sounds like Rebecca is describing forced physical contact without a person's consent. Is that not assault?
That was one of the things that we mentioned to everyone. We're like, that was weird.
Yeah.
Why were you doing that? Why were you incessant?
Yeah. Sounds good.
By the way, that's something that's going to come up later, but I want you to notice that word because it comes up later. She said, why was it incessant? Why was it incessant? Later, they're going to talk about one of the cleaning ladies saying that she saw Josh Brown kissing some of the kids incessantly in the pool, like incessantly kissing them on their head and their neck. That incessant word feels very important.
It was gross.
Who's Maddie?
That was Joni's personal assistant prior to the current lady.
Okay.
Who. Well, do I need to tell him what happened?
That is not anything to Joshua. I was just curious.
Okay.
What about Sylvia and Edith?
Edith is our cleaning lady, and Sylvia is Joni's.
Okay. Do you know what they've seen? This is eyewitness.
Edith.
All right, so before he gets into any more detail, it's Joni's assistant and one of the cleaning ladies. This letter includes things about both of them, things that they told JW that he's seen that is going to lead to them trying to get those people in, at least one of them, in for an interview. Without the letter being shared, without the letter being on record, you don't have any of that.
Says that she didn't see anything. Sylvia says that trip that Josh came out and announced to everyone. Was the announcement that I saw him naked. Was that the same year? Yeah, that was the same year that I saw the pool stuff and the kids in the bed stuff. Yeah, that was all that same year.
Yes.
No, from what I remember, the pool and you was the year prior, where he said that she walked in on him when he was showering or something.
Now, here's a big part of my problem with this. It's been so long, they're having a hard time remembering what happened in 2020, what happened in 2021, okay? And it's because this should have went to the police earlier, and the entire family should have been cooperating with the police earlier in this investigation. But instead, it sounds like Joni and Marcus took this to, let's go to Denise Boggs, our unlicensed family counselor, and then let's let her get her forensic investigator friend involved in this. And then we're going to tell the whole family that Josh has been exonerated by this forensic investigator. All of that is Joni and Marcus putting this stuff together. So this never went, it sounds like, with the family working with investigators. If the family had worked with investigators instead of Denise Boggs and instead of the forensic investigator and instead of the polygraph, if the whole family had worked with investigators when this first happened, people wouldn't be having such a hard time remembering what happened when. This is the problem when we let years pass before we pursue justice. This is the kind of thing that happens. So why did Jonathan and Susie go public? Why did Jonathan basically burn his career to the ground to go forward with all this? Because this forced the investigation to at least start moving, and it forced the Lamb family to play along in a way that they hadn't for a couple of years. At least that's my best understanding of it.
And she witnesses what you said to her, right? Is that what you're saying? That
No.
she still is?
So we talked. So we talked to her yesterday, and we said, because remember we were outside, and there's two versions of events, so we didn't know which one was true. So when we went to this letter, we asked her. We said, "Hey, were you there? Did you see what happened?" And she said, "Yeah, I did see what happened." And
Go ahead. She said that she saw go upstairs and Josh followed her upstairs.
yeah,
There's two stories. We don't know who to believe because there's two stories from the family. And we're just now finding out that there was a witness. They're just now telling investigators that there was a witness in the house outside of the family who said, I saw the little girl go up to change, say she was going to change, and I saw Josh Brown follow after her. That sounds like it corroborates Susie's story. And we're just now finding out about that. That's a problem.
she said that she said that she heard her say, "I want to go swimming." Susie said, "Okay, Josh was there in the kitchen or something." Susie said, "Okay, go upstairs and go change." And she went to go change, and then Josh followed.
Again, that is a witness who is not a part of the Lamb family, who absolutely, everything they said corroborates what Susie had said the whole time.
And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you, because that just confirms to me that something's off.
One of the reasons we wanted to talk to you was we read this in the letter years later, and it confirmed to us that something was off. This should have been talked about years earlier. It doesn't just confirm something was off. It confirms that now you have two witnesses who are saying the same thing, that there are witnesses to Susie's story.
Well, then she also said that same trip that she saw Josh,
this
which
too.
is the first time I've ever heard this was yesterday, so less than 24 hours ago.
All right, so he says it's the first time he heard this, so maybe this wasn't in the letter. Maybe this is stuff they just found out. So again, maybe I misunderstood. I get real hot under the collar about this kind of stuff with injustice, especially when kids are involved. But I do appreciate JW and Rebecca, because it does sound like they're finding out some new information. Why didn't people ask these cleaners and other employees? Why didn't they ask them this stuff earlier? I don't know, but I appreciate them bringing this here. I also think some of the things that they apparently learned just in the last few days probably leads to why they're willing to buck this attorney a little bit.
That she saw Josh floating with in the pool and kissing her on her neck, in her face, in her head, incessantly.
And she remembers thinking, "Why would you do that? She's just a baby."
She was like,
So now we also have multiple witnesses, both inside and outside the family, that have seen inappropriate kissing from an adult to a minor that the minor didn't want, that is not normal behavior. Again, feels like assault. This is why this stuff is so important to get on record. It's multiple witnesses talking about it, even if it's not enough for a conviction. It's hey guys, we're learning a lot about Josh Brown here. If nothing else, best case scenario, we're learning he's ridiculously unwise and struggles with social cues. Now that's the best, most charitable interpretation we could give. If we Occam's razor this thing, the most likely scenario is probably the true one. Well, we can't convict somebody off that, but what we can say is From what I found out, I wouldn't let my kids around Josh Brown. Can't say he's guilty, but I can say there's enough red flags. I wouldn't let my kids around Josh Brown. Although my kids are old enough to punch him in the face if he tries that. So they're almost grown men now. So that would at least be kind of funny.
Weird. 3 at the time. Yeah.
So where did this take place?
On one of those trips, I
In
can.
the pool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we wanted
This
to
is
come
when
back.
he had the easiest access to her. That was like not, alarming, and so that's why I think all these things were happening in those moments. I don't know what was happening while we were here in Texas because it's a lot more compartmentalized here. We never saw any of them
Because
outside
we're never
of
with
work.
them, but we were all there together. And when I heard that from her, it just solidified for me at the time that when it all went down, I do think my initial thought was that he did do something, but because of all the years and because of the two version of events.
My initial thought was that he did do something. Hearing these things solidified that my initial gut feeling was right, and I feel like he did something. That's essentially what she's saying here. But again, she goes back because of all these years and stuff. I wasn't sure if that's what you felt like from the beginning. I just don't understand with this family, and I think it's just the family dynamics. Joni and Marcus had a lot of power. They had a lot of influence. Nobody wanted to believe this was true. This should have all went to the police immediately, which goes back to the original article that Julie Roy's put out, which is really raising the question, did Joni Lamb cover this up? And that's still a question that I've got. And the more I hear, the more it feels like this was intentionally just tried to be swept under the rug to protect a family and to protect the ministry's reputation instead of protecting a young girl. Again, just my opinion. That's my vantage point. That's what it looks like.
And just honestly, I have trust issues with people on both sides of the situation. It's taken a while to gather our thoughts, and going back to this letter and then talking to her, it just confirmed to me what my gut said all those years ago. And so, because I told him.
That's something to learn in spiritual abuse cases, especially, guys. I tell people all the time, trust your gut. Because a lot of times what you say, oh man, my gut feeling is, a lot of times it's not your gut that you're trusting, it's the Holy Spirit. If you are a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit inside of you. And if you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, then he is speaking groans and utterances, right? He is showing us the way. He is giving us truth and light. You got to trust your gut. If your gut is telling you something is wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean you're always right, but it means it's worth questioning because likely something is wrong.
I said, if you heard someone say, go up and change, why would you follow them up the stairs?
Yeah, it's just, okay, I'm confused now. Is this the one where he had his son with him?
Yes.
And
I don't know that this attorney is confused as much as he doesn't like what's being said. Notice the first time he's really interjected here, again, just my hunch. The first time he seems to interject here is when Rebecca essentially goes, yeah, I thought Pete did it to begin with. And now this is kind of confirmed. I think he probably did it. Yeah, you're sharing a whole lot of information, including other people's testimony that probably wasn't ran by this attorney. And now he seems confused. I don't know that I buy it.
it's in theory.
Israel, in theory, he didn't have him with
We
him?
don't know. We were outside.
Oh, okay.
Well, probably,
That's why it is confusing.
Oh, no. Well, I'm just trying to figure it out. I don't know that you were trying to figure it out as much as you were trying to get them to stop talking.
And that's why we haven't known. It's been so hard for us to navigate because of all the other stuff. But when we go down to the bare things.
All the other stuff is your profession. All the other stuff is them being family. All the other stuff is all of, your family, your profession, your livelihood, all being awkwardly tangled together, which is potentially how Joni and Marcus like it. That's all the other stuff. But when you just ask what happened, and this is what Rebecca's saying, when I just ask what happened, man, I'm concerned that Josh did this, which is why it boggles my mind that this was covered up for so long, or what looks to be covered up for so long.
I do think that Jonathan Lamb came out and did say that, yes, Josh had Judah, his son, with him at that time at the scene of the naked,
But in my mind, there's no, to me, that I don't understand. And everyone's like, well, he wasn't doing anything. Well, Jonathan ran up immediately after him. I don't think he had time.
Exactly. And none of us understand because those empty excuses they're giving does not make sense to any normal adult human being, in my opinion.
Which I don't know. But I'm just saying, why would you follow someone upstairs if you heard someone say that? So to me, it's suspicious.
The other thing that Sylvia said yesterday is that when they pulled when they went down to the family, or Josh and Rachel, Jonathan and Susie, Marcus and Joni went down to the basement after the incident to try and like restore, repair, whatever. Israel and went with Sylvia out to the pool, and Israel said that
I don't remember what she said.
she said that.
All right, we're about to get another bombshell because we're about to have this witness, this third party witness, Sylvia, that we never heard from before. We're about to hear from her witness of something very important that she said Israel told her.
What did he say? It was something like
Josh and I were naked in the same room, which is even different than what the story that John and Susie are.
Not different. I would say additional. Sounds like additional. And now we've got, if that's what Israel said, we've got a witness saying that's what he said. Again, we're finding out all sorts of information from JW and Rebecca, some of it that they just found out. So that's why I told you the second interview, totally different, because they're putting out a lot of information that they didn't want people to know because it's going to make them uncomfortable. They didn't want people to know it came from them, but they wanted the detective to know. And I'm grateful they told the detective. Man, some of this, if I wonder if the reason why they weren't able to take the investigation farther is because that letter and that stuff wasn't completely on the record. And if they weren't able to talk to all these people, because there's so much smoke there.
So it's like, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to the kids, but
it's a little more difficult process to talk to.
I bet, yeah, I can only.
But I'll probably reach, if you can send me her contact info.
See, okay, here's the thing. She is absolutely terrified
Petrified.
to talk to anybody.
And they're going to say that multiple more times. And every single time it is a massive red flag. Nobody, no adult human in a healthy situation, in a healthy environment, should be terrified of retaliation for telling the truth about the mistreatment of a child. Not only that, in any healthy work situation, no employee should ever be terrified to tell the truth. That is a mark of a toxic, unhealthy work culture. But beyond that, in a Christian environment, working for a company, for Joni, who leads Daystar, who's classified as a church, a ministry, all of that, no one working for a Christian should ever be terrified to tell the truth because they're terrified of retaliation. All of these things are big, massive, huge red flags, big, 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 big problems. Because that fear tells us a lot about why things have went the way they have.
She was like very upset that I had her included in that letter.
Why is she very upset that she's included in that letter? Well, because the only thing I can think of is that she's scared of Joni retaliating. I have never seen so many people like terrified and scared of a like older woman like this at this point. Like, man, people are so scared of Joni. Like, Joni, do you want people to be terrified of you? I mean, is that the way you want to be known? Because right now it just feels like you're known as a mean old lady who's going to retaliate with people who don't have as much money and influence. Again, I could be wrong, but that's what it feels like to me.
She is absolutely terrified to talk to anybody. And she was like very upset that I had her included in that letter. Again, the letter, I was never meaning to, get anyone in trouble with this. It was just like what I had, So I don't know how to do that because, she's terrified for, her job and her livelihood and.
Well, ultimately, you guys know her better than I do. But if she could have any kind of, anything that could help further this case, whether to show that he did something or not, I think it would be beneficial. I mean, it's for a child, so.
I know.
Yeah. And it sounds like she might have a close relationship with that child, too.
The detective's basically saying, I know this is hard, but hey, guys, it's for a child. I mean, did you hear just the despair in JW's voice? I know it's hard, but anything you could share, this is for a child. I know. Like, I hear defeat. I hear despair because this is somebody else telling you, hey, like, I know it's hard, but all these excuses, are they really good excuses? This is for a child. I think we hear him wrestling with himself right now. I think he should be.
Yeah, I mean, she did. It was all kind of a family thing. So, yeah. I don't know, maybe you could talk to her when you see her next.
Yeah.
He said it's all kind of a family thing. I call bull crap on that. This is not a family thing. This is a right and wrong thing at this point.
I'll talk to her.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So does she know that y'all had her listed in this thing?
Yeah, because I
told her
said
yesterday.
I'm going to go talk to a detective.
Okay.
No,
So we're trying to keep all this.
she found that out yesterday.
Okay.
And then we found out yesterday she confirmed a version, you know. And I trust her.
Okay.
So
Well, let me continue on a little bit.
Did y'all tell Edith and everyone else too? Have her damn been included in this?
Yeah, I asked Edith if she was.
I thought we were trying to keep all this low profile, if you will.
As low as
Do you hear the attorney there? He's uncomfortable. Did you ask for their permission before you shared this? I thought we were trying to keep this low profile. I'm trying to interrupt. I don't want you telling more. And this is the place where I have the most respect for JW, because he's about to say we're going to keep it as low profile as we can while seeking the truth. This attorney does not like how much they're sharing. And that whole idea, I thought we were trying to keep this low profile. Well, Mr. Attorney, who said that? Who was trying to keep this low profile? Was that JW and Rebecca wanting to do that, or was that Joni? Was that for the best interest of Daystar? Why are we trying to keep it low profile instead of just saying, I thought we were trying to get to the truth? I think that just told us a whole lot.
we possibly can with getting to the bottom of it.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
As low as we possibly can with getting to the bottom of it.
He did not like that answer. That attorney did not like that answer. That was JW pushing back real hard.
Which Edith said she didn't see anything. So
So you're gonna talk to Sylvia. And what is her title again?
She's just the cleaning lady.
For
Joni.
Joni, no.
No, and that's why she's terrified.
And that's what the attorney's concerned with. Is the person who's writing my checks, do they know? Does Joni know? Does the person in charge here know? And JW says, no, that's why she's terrified. And I'm just going to tell you, JW, Rebecca, Mr. Attorney Man, nobody gives a flying flip whether Joni knows except for y'all. Like, again, at some point, we got to have people grow a backbone and stop being scared of Joni and losing Joni's money. Screw Joni's money. There are so many people in and around this family that are worried about losing Joni's money, Joni's support, that they're running around terrified of Joni. At what point are we going to say, hey, we're grown-ups. There's plenty of other ways to make money. We don't have to have as much money as we're getting from Joni. And that's what I appreciate about Jonathan and Susie. They left Joni's money. At some point, they said it is much nicer than this because they're nicer people than I am. But at some point, they said the equivalent of screw Joni's money. We care about the truth. We care about our kid. We're not going to bow the knee to mommy anymore. Everybody else, including this attorney, bowing the knee to mommy Joni and mommy Joni's money. Do you see that? There wasn't anything said there, but if you didn't see it, just rewind a little bit. Go back and watch Rebecca. The way she's moving her neck, the way she's kind of twitching, she just looks uncomfortable. And I don't think it's physically uncomfortable. She looks emotionally uncomfortable. Like I don't know if it's discomfort because the attorney's getting upset or discomfort because she wants to say more. But if I'm the investigator, if I'm the detective, I'm looking at that. Her body language is telling me there's something else there.
she saw something sketchy on her own too that we didn't see with him with her. So it's like all these different accounts. I mean, it's something. I mean, I know it's not.
It's not smoking gun, but every bit helps regardless in either way. So
Yeah. You just say what you know and.
I can see some relevancy in a lot of it, just for documentation purposes. Do you know the process with getting the Attorney General to redact stuff from public records? Because there is a process, but.
All right. So what the detective is doing here is important. One, he's letting them know essentially this letter's more important than you thought it was. He says, I can see a relevancy with a lot of this stuff. Later on, he's going to say, essentially, I can see relevancy in everything except for the scripture references at the end. So as he's read this letter, we don't know what he's read. We only know pieces of it. But as he's read this letter, he sees a lot of relevancy. And I would say so because there's multiple witnesses saying other things in this letter. So he's going to talk to the attorney and he's going to try to give him an opportunity. You can enter this letter into the record And you can go through the legal system, the attorney general, to get much of this redacted after the investigation is closed or paused for the public. And you're going to hear this attorney essentially, and guys, I've been around a lot of attorneys. We've been around good attorneys and bad attorneys. And one of the issues we ran into with SAI, there's a whole lot of attorneys who don't even want to do work if it's not easy. So I don't know if this is laziness or if it's something else, but this attorney doesn't want to do his part to be able to allow them to get this into the record, to pursue justice, and then protect JW and Rebecca against this. He would rather just, well, let's not enter this into the record and protect them my way. And I don't know if that's because it's easy or because he just doesn't want this into the record, but it's a bad look for this attorney, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, so that's a long process. Yeah. It'll take weeks or months that happen.
Okay.
This was in January of 2025. So if he had taken the weeks and months and not been what looks like lazy about it, then he could have had the letter in and redacted. But instead, it looks like he chose to do neither.
My concern is transparency. So if we redact anything, people are going to come out and accuse us of being corrupt and all that stuff again. So,
and look at that. A detective, a police officer is thinking more about transparency than a lot of the churches we talk about. Hey, yeah, we could redact it, but I'm concerned about transparency. People will think we're corrupt. They're thinking we're trying to hide something. So if you want to go through the attorney general and hide it, I totally get that. But we have to be transparent. Gosh, wouldn't it be a breath of fresh air if more churches and ministries had those same conversations? How do we feel, fam? How do we feel, chat, about a detective being more concerned about transparency, not looking corrupt and not hiding things, than people representing a ministry? Self-proclaimed Christians representing a ministry. A secular detective should not care more about that stuff than we do.
There's both sides of everything. So I was just curious, is there a way to get the full unredacted copy, but get it redacted after the fact?
Say that again?
Like, is there a way to get this copy, but get it redacted for like open records purposes?
So the detective's wanting two things here. It sounds like, one, he wants to be able to enter the copy he just read into the record, which right now isn't, from my understanding. And two, he wants it fully unredacted because there's things in the very letter that he's reading that are redacted. And my hunch is that he probably, just through reading it, believes it's probably more relevant than the attorney says he thinks it is.
The attorney general or something. That's what I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'd have to check in because I know it's a long process to do that.
Again, are you lazy or do you just not care about justice, bro? It's a long process. It's a few months. It could have been done. Do your dang job. Last I checked, those are billable hours. You could be billing Joni for all kinds of her money, unless sharing the letter is going to make Joni mad. And if it is, share the letter.
Yeah, I was just hoping you'd be able to, as you said, on the phone, look at this, review it, and then be able to quote from it, or perhaps even as used for you to follow up with anything necessary, such as, I think now you're saying,
Sylvia.
the Sylvia person. Have her interview.
Yeah, it's just, I'm thinking that this is a whole thing. I mean, really the only bits I wouldn't need would be the Bible verses at the very end. There's some stuff that could be construed as, relevant. So
the detective is trying not to lose this opportunity. He's trying not to make them mad and just get shut down. But guys, he's essentially begging them to let him enter the unredacted letter into the record. He's essentially begging them because he sees it as highly relevant. So this whole deal of, oh, that's going to take too much time. I don't want to do that. We want to protect with the redactions. Can't you just quote it? All of that. To me, from my vantage point, that is just that attorney putting up a bunch of roadblocks for justice. It's a problem.
I don't want to get your stuff out there at all. But they got to do the whole transparency thing too, So I'm not trying to demand it right now.
Yeah, well, let me do this. Let me check into what that process is, because I haven't done that in years. Okay. But I do know the last time I did it, it took quite a while to get it done. I can know when you send it to the AT's office, and they have to vet it and everything, and get back with some preliminary opinions and then a final opinion about what can be.
It sounds like this attorney is making ridiculous excuses. Like just ridiculous excuses. Makes me wonder why.
It cannot be and all that.
Yeah. It would be very helpful for the case just to have it, but
Okay.
I don't want to air your stuff out there, so that's the concern.
Because once the case is closed, it goes public.
Once the case is closed, every detail about the case can be requested publicly. But there is I'm not going
I know he faces a lot to lose, but I'm struggling to see why at this point, with everything that they know and everything they've shared, why JW is still worried about this going public. I mean, at this point, just tell the truth. If the truth goes public, I mean, that's kind of biblical. Everything that is hidden is going to come to light, man. We got to care more about the truth and more about protecting people than we do about protecting our own skins.
to the process to do the record stuff. But I know the Attorney General can, after the fact, can go back and redact certain aspects of things with the, I guess, if they approve it.
Again, the detective's trying not to totally throw out with the attorney and make them mad, but he's in a very nice way being like, hey, I know the attorney can do this and it's not as hard as he's making it sound like it is. That's the way that I took it. I know for a fact the Attorney General can do this.
So if you guys were to, if I had this whole thing unredacted, you guys can contact the Attorney General and they can redact it for open record stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Well, what does it take to close the case? Like an arrest or a non-arrest, basically. Like where
Yeah, to say, hey, there's no way to prove that he did it, or he's been arrested. So that's
All right, I'll check into all that and get back with you. So you are wanting to follow up with Sylvia?
she might just say she's too scared to talk to you.
Okay.
And that should be, again, a massive red flag. I don't know why they're not seeing it. If this lady is too scared to talk to the police because of Joni, then Joni needs to be removed from overseeing and supervising anybody. That is toxic leadership if people are terrified to tell the truth and do the right thing.
it's.
So if you have,
I wouldn't be doing my job even halfway decent if I didn't try to talk to her.
yeah, I get it. And
Not only would he not be doing his job halfway decent, the reality is they're making it very hard for him to do his job by not just giving him the unredacted letter.
you were gonna ask that. You know what? I don't know. I think the best bet is that you just ask her. She'll meet with
I'll
him.
talk to her.
Yeah.
I have no issue asking.
I had two other questions I was going to ask either one of you guys, whoever get it. Can I get a copy of that NDA? Like, it doesn't have to be a signed copy or anything. I just want to know what.
And if you missed it, we talked about it in segment 1. We'll put that up as a standalone video. But we talked about the issues with this guy asking about the NDA, why he asked about the NDA. But again, he started asking about the NDA and he comes back at the very end of the second interview asking about the NDA. Why? Because likely he is concerned this is part of what is sowing all this fear in everybody.
It entails.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other side is claiming it's NDA for this stuff.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
not. It's
That's-
really basic, right?
I mean,
And again, if you missed it in the first video, we asked the question, is it basic? And I came to the opinion and showed my work on that. I came to the opinion this is absolutely not a basic NDA. I don't think they're lying about it because they're dishonest. I think they've been told it and they believe it, and they're ignorant to what NDAs look like in the corporate world.
it's just a regular executive NDA that's, you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to read it.
Sure.
See, but and the letter would be helpful. I'm not going to reference it at this point, but if you can see if they would redact it or anything, then I appreciate it.
Yeah, let me look into that. Okay.
So what are the implications if we just give him the letter?
Again, the detective is basically begging them time and time again. He said it 3 times now at the end of this interview. That letter, that unredacted letter would be really helpful. It would be really helpful. It'd be really helpful to the case, and he's not getting it.
Basically is that I'm putting myself out for when the case is closed.
When the case is closed, if
This social
Somebody
media
wants-
trolls can get it and then
Yeah.
do a whole thing with it.
say this is what that letter was. And,
Well, okay.
So do we have like a
Again, do you sense the same hesitancy in Rebecca there? That is now the second time recently in the video that I've looked at. I'm just at her body language, the way she's acting. There's something else there. I feel like there's more she wants to say. And it just makes me wonder, why is she not saying it? Is it because the attorney? Like just what's going on?
time frame on this kind of stuff? 'Cause,
I prefer it sooner than later. I'll say that.
You mean a time frame on if
like getting
when-
them charged and dealt with.
Oh, what are you talking?
Oh, what now? That
Getting-
depends. That
Getting
depends.
Josh charged and dealt with.
That depends. I mean, If I get all the pieces of the puzzle, then I can give more of a definitive answer on that. But
We just need the truth, not all the noise, the truth to come up.
Yeah.
And the detective is telling you a great way to get all that truth, Rebecca, is the unredacted letter.
Dealt with.
yeah, there's
That's
a
what
lot of
we-
noise. So.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
don't
of
want
noise.
noise. I just want to bring what's true and get it handled. However it's supposed to be
Because we're
handled.
living in it right now, you know?
And again, I'm trying to be gracious because I am grateful for the courage they've had to share the things that they've shared in this second interview. But JW, yes, you guys are living in it right now. And yes, it's uncomfortable. You know who else is living in it? Jonathan and Susie. You know who else is living in it? Baby Lamb. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that you don't do it. Is it the right thing to do or not? That's the question you got to ask. Is it the right thing to do or not? And I'm just going to be honest with you, JW, from my perspective, man to man, you're going to be living in it. It's going to be uncomfortable as long as you work with mommy Joni and as long as you guys are staying a part of this, you're continuing to stay a part of this dysfunctional family in the same way. And I'm using his words. He called it a dysfunctional family. The bottom line is until something changes, this is a very unhealthy dynamic that is going to continue to lead to a bunch of unhealthy results. And I think the best advice that I could give them is man, start looking for another job outside of your family so at least they're not controlling your finances. The problem is in a lot of these cases, especially when this involves like pastors, sons and daughters and stuff like that, a lot of times because they've only been a part of the family ministry, you have a lot of people who can't leave because there's nowhere else that's going to pay you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. Nobody else is going to pay you as much as you're making because you're not worth that on the open market. But the reality is you also don't need that to live. I think separating this family, being separated from their livelihood is going to be one of the best things for them.
And
It's
if
getting
there's
really tiring.
Well, yeah, and the reason why for us is that regardless of everything that's going on and all the things that go along with it, if he is a pedophile and he is doing this, we need him dealt with. Period.
We all do. We all do. And, you know, JW said it's tiring. It's getting tiring for all of us. It seems to be getting tiring for everybody except for potentially Joni and Josh and the attorneys. I think everybody's exhausted by this.
For a niece and
As a
any other
society.
kid. You know, and so that's why we're bringing everything that we have.
No, I completely agree with you. And on the other end of that too, if he didn't do any of this stuff, I want to clear that up for you
Exactly.
guys and the family. So.
Yeah, we just want whatever.
Yeah, like have we seen this polygraph?
Have you seen the polygraph?
That's not.
And there you have it. I told you about this at the beginning. They bring this up at the very end. We just want to find the truth. You have Rebecca Lamb Weiss, the daughter of Joni, and her husband saying, we've still never seen this polygraph. Have you seen the polygraph? Because they keep coming back and saying, Josh can't be guilty because he passed the polygraph, right? Not only is this detective telling them the polygraph isn't admissible in court, the polygraph doesn't necessarily, it can be helpful. I think it's a very helpful tool, but it doesn't necessarily exonerate him. The fact that they haven't seen it, the fact that there are still people in this family just believing what Joni told them. Okay, if you haven't seen the polygraph, if you haven't talked to a polygraph examiner about it, then how do you even know it happened? How do you trust it at all? The fact that people are still just trusting what mommy Joni is telling them is ridiculous to me at this point, and it tells me a lot. If the polygraph really cleared him, then why would they not have shared the polygraph with their own family? Why would they not have had the polyographer meet with the whole family? Why would they not have done that to make everybody feel better? That is super fishy to me.
Court, I mean,
Yeah.
but
They just keep referencing it to us as like
As
this incredible thing that keeps them clear.
Yeah, oddly enough, they keep referencing the one thing they won't let you see. It's this fictional thing. They're basically just saying, trust us. Our word is our bond. And again, this is ridiculous. If I was Josh Brown and I was innocent, I would want that polygraph out there. I would want the polyographer that did it to be out there to interview them, to do everything. Why would they not share it with the family? Why would they not share it with the public at large? That again, there's still way too many other red flags for anybody to believe Josh just off of that, but it would at least be helpful. It makes me wonder if this polygraph ever happened, if it was real, and it makes me wonder if the polygraph administrator actually said the things to Joni that she said was actually told to them, to her, to Josh Brown, to the others. It all seems just super fishy to me. The Roy's report, I believe, is releasing more of these interviews. We're going to go through them once they come out. Guys, I'm not trying to get to this fast. I'm not trying to be the first person to talk about these things. I've watched these interviews probably 4 different times before I edited them and cut them up because I wanted to be able to have deep conversations about it. So if those things come out, I may not get to them that day or the next day, but we're going to get to them within a couple of days because I want to be thoughtful about this. But today we talked about 2 things with this, man. We had a whole segment, whole video on the NDA stuff. And I think it's taught us a lot. It's taught us a lot about the broader church and ministry world. It's taught us why it's so hard to get justice. It's also raised a lot of questions. And then we've listened to these interviews really to all of the relevant parts that I could find, cutting out all the fluff. And I think, again, it's left us with a lot of questions. So yes, this investigation is closed because there's not enough evidence right now to pursue anything further. My biggest question with it, though, is part of that because certain people aren't talking. And it's part of that because things like the letter was never entered into the official record. It's part of that because there were barriers that were put up by the lawyers and by the family, because that is very concerning. But also, we know that the investigation was not closed because anybody was exonerated. Okay, Josh Brown has not been exonerated. He's also not been proven guilty. Right now, until they get any other evidence, they need an outcry from the child. And even if they get other evidence, they may still need that outcry from the child. And anybody who's familiar with these cases knows that's why we need to get rid of statute of limitations with them in general across the country, because delayed disclosure, delayed reporting is so normal. So just continue to pray for the family, continue to pray for Jonathan and Susie and the backlash I'm sure they're getting from people who just want this to go away still a year later. Pray for baby lamb, pray for Israel, pray for the whole family. Can't imagine what they're going through. Pray for JW and for Rebecca to continue to do the right thing, to continue to follow their convictions and not just do what Joni's telling them. Pray for them because of the backlash they're going to be getting off the things that they did say that have now been made public. I believe they should have been made public, but I also, man, I'm praying for them because I can't imagine the backlash that they are facing. And just pray for the truth. Pray for the truth to come out in all of this. I really didn't think that a year later that we would be in this place where so much still feels like it's just being actively pushed back or actively covered up. But that's where we're at. And I'm so grateful that Jonathan and Susie haven't given up on it and that they're still pushing. So some people may be upset. Why are they releasing this stuff publicly? Well, the reason why is because they're still pushing. And why are they still pushing for the truth? When this case was closed, Daystar came out and talked about it. Joni came out and talked about it, if I remember correctly. And they put a thing out there. Hey, this is closed. We're so saddened that so many people believed all this slander and all these other things online, and basically used it to how I took it was, and I told you so. We told you we weren't guilty, and you people just wanted to believe the gossip and the smut online. And they're kind of using this to clear themselves. And the reality is this isn't cleared anybody. It's just said we still don't have enough information to make a decision. So, man, I'm inspired and I'm encouraged by Jonathan and Susie's courage to put themselves back out there, but to say, you know what, we're not just going to let this thing die. We're not just going to let, we're not going to let Joni and the people around her act like we were, just lying and making things up the whole time. Like, we're going to leave this out there. We've had a reason for concerns the whole time. We still have reason for concerns. We're still fighting for truth. So yeah, just join me in praying for everybody. And I'll be back as soon as more of those are released, because I think we may have some interviews coming with Josh Brown, may have some interviews coming with the house cleaner and all of that. And if we get those, I'm going to go through them. I'm going to be right back here with you guys. And but just been talking back and forth with Jonathan and Susie just a little bit, just minorly, but again, grateful for them and praying for them. But that's it for this video. We'll be back with another one soon. We'll be back with more on this actual topic soon. But until then, grace and peace.